Okay, is that on? Cool. Hello and welcome to How I Make My Videos Part 2, Production. In the last video I talked about the planning and preparation, and this video I want to talk about the actual production making, so the filming of it, the gear involved, the location, the settings, the framing, the lighting, the differences between interior shooting, exterior shooting, anything else? First of all, I'd like to do another reminder that I am a noob. Who even says noob anymore? I have very little experience, but I am sharing my experience so far because it's been requested. So first and foremost, I want to talk about equipment. We can see the tripod that I normally use for my vlogging. That's the brand there, not sponsored. It's Zoomi or Zomi or Zomi I don't really know. It's a carbon fiber with a ball head. In front of that, we have the Rode video mic, which is my former mic used on my camera. It's equipped to H4n zoom recorder, handy recorder. That is also on another former tripod, which interestingly, I would like to point out, cost me only £10. Here is, and what is lighting the room the most, a white circle disc or reflector. This basically serves the function of bouncing light back into the room. One of my genuine top tips with filmmaking: make use of what you can find from B&Q. These here are pieces of A4 card foam. So right now they're there to block the light out as much as possible. We have the IKEA lamp I got for £15, which I've recently been using as a on-shot light. And here of course is the camera, which is probably the most requested piece of equipment from comments. It is a Canon 70D, and I'm sporting a Rode VideoMic Pro, which is almost identical to the one I showed earlier, except it doesn't give a slight hiss. I'm also wearing, and it's quite hard to show, the dead cat, it's called. It's effectively a wind muff for the microphone, as this is the microphone I use when outside. A boom pole. I bought this under the impression I would use it all the time. I am still yet to use it. It's been in my room for a year. All it's done so far is gather dust. Right next to that is a stabilizer. It is a shoulder stabilizer, again from Amazon. Even though I don't use it as frequently as I'd like to, when shooting outside for things like finding myself, it really gives a much more stable shot to handheld, especially when using my favourite lens. GoPro there, that is ranked in the third least used. I only don't use it because I don't do enough exciting things. Right by that we have another few handy items, which are density filters. There's one there out for display and a few more in this here. They effectively darken the lens like sunglasses do for eyes, so you can lower the aperture and get a nice depth of field. Here is one of my favourite things, a lens puffer. It essentially blows out dirt off your lens. Sigma f1.4 art lens. I've got the exterior tripod, which is a Gorilla Pod. I use that mainly outside. Easily my most used item, tape. Now I'd like to talk about my lenses. First off, I'm going to talk about the lens that's currently on the camera, which is the one I've just shown, the Sigma f1.4. I'll put all links in the description. This lens is exceptional. The depth of field you can see here is phenomenal. It's just so gorgeous. The pros of this lens is the ridiculous depth of field, the attention to detail, the amount of light you can let in. But the cons of this lens are, first and foremost, no zoom. Secondly, terrible image stabilization. I really wanted to use this lens when out and about on my travels, but the image stabilization was so bad it made most shots look horribly shaky, and it became too much of an issue. I can try and stabilize it in editing, but it fundamentally always looks fairly naff, unless done on tripod, which is why it's perfect for the vlog setup. Another con of it is it's a 35mm. Right now I'm more than an arm's width away from the camera, yet I'm only just in frame. The second lens I'd like to talk about is the Sigma 17 to 70mm f2.8. This was my go-to lens for the majority of my travels, just because the zoom, the image stabilization, the amount I can fit in shot, I don't have to worry about having the camera too far away, and I'd like to show just how wide it can be, so I'm going to swap to it now. And noticeably the lens is so much wider already. You can actually see the whole of my room, from the outside of the mirror to the lamp that I leave on. Unfortunately, because it's f2.8, I can't let as much light in, so you can now see how dark my room is when I film. Okay, next up I want to talk about framing. In high-end films, controlling what's in the frame is so important to giving off the overall message. Now, in terms of the interior, the vlogging setup I use, there's not much I can imply. With my framing, I keep it very simple. I have the bed background to show that it's my bedroom, to show it's all natural, just like most YouTube videos. I also have a on-shot light, that's for lighting purposes mainly, but I think it looks fairly appealing. Right, so sticking with interior, let's talk briefly about lighting. My first bit of advice I gained from YouTube on lighting was the 3-point lighting system, I think that's what it's called. I don't know exactly the correct terminology, but I know how it functions, and that's you have 3 sources of light. You have the first source, which is the main light, that's the one that's coming from here. That today is merely the reflector light from, actually, my second source of light, which is my real life light that is being bounced off some posters in frames, nothing too exciting. And the third source of light is the in-shot light, which is this lovely Pixar-ish lamp here. The purpose of this is I have the main light showing up, I have the second light backing up, you have the appealing light, which I'm using to sort of give this side of the face a slight glow to it. Now with the lighting, you can also try and give yourself, and this is what I'm always aiming for, that lovely chin. Does that look good? I don't know if it looks good. Having light coming from the top gives you shadow under your chin and a more defined jawline. That's another thing that helps jawline, now we're on the topic, is having the camera pointing slightly down. I mean, it works. So whilst I'm using my camera, I'm demonstrating on that, which is, I'll go nice and close to show. That is my phone taped to the tripod with sellotape. Next I'm going to talk about using my camera outside and how I generally do it. So the typical format for the daily vlogger is this kind of setup, which is the what can only be called the Casey Neistat, the microphone on the top, the Canon 70D or Canon camera, the DSLR, and then the GorillaPod curved in a shape so that you can essentially hold it out like this and look like Casey Neistat, which I did try to do for a bit, but I felt like it didn't really give me exactly the kind of shots I want. What I'm trying to do is show as opposed to tell. So instead of showing myself talking about things, I show the things. And how I managed to do that with the GorillaPod for more stable footage is put on the strap, which comes with the camera, or you can buy one. This one was £1 off Amazon or something like that. And the GorillaPod finds its place lodged into points of the stomach, like so. Hands free. Not too shabby. This GorillaPod has done this for probably the past 4 months, and it is getting a bit weak. It's not exactly the dream position. You kind of see it slipping there, but you can do completely hands-free shots. You can show your hands in shot, do a little dance, whatever you want. So as I explained in yesterday's video, I don't just want this to be an explanation of how I do my videos, I also want it to make a video. So what I'm going to do now is shoot the interior part of this film. It's going to be the typical vlog format that I've used before, with the exterior light as shown earlier. It's also not scripted. So first of all, turn on microphone, check the audio levels are fine, and just make sure the audio has something to sync to. So a typical clap normally does the job. Right, the framing's fine. Typically I'll take off my glasses once I can see that I'm in focus. However, that does typically lead to shots going out of focus. I use autofocus mainly because I so frequently move around, and it's probably the most frustrating thing in the world. Doing an entire 10-minute talking video and then leaning slightly out of focus and the whole thing is out of focus. I don't actually know what it is about New Zealand that I love so much. I don't know if it's the culture or... Okay, thank you for watching today's very, very manic video. I'm sorry I said so much and it was quite fast paced, but I just had so much to say about this topic and I wanted to get it all out there. I definitely missed something important as well. When I realise this, I will put it in the next part, which is going to be editing. So I'm going to be doing a behind the scenes editing tutorial. I don't have an outro, so... Oh my god. Oh.